with no further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker. Maybe some of you already know her. I've seen in the chat that some of you had the privilege to be with her in a workshop. So our speaker is Caroline Kearney, and she's a senior analyst and manager at European SchoolNet. She's also the eTwinning monitoring officer and member of the eTwinning pedagogical advisory team. And she worked a lot on this report that she's going to talk about. And she's also the coordinator of Key Connect, European Policy Network on Key Competences in School Education, another project that she's involved in. So, sorry if I missed something, Caroline. You are free to add anything.
Perfect introduction, very comprehensive, thank you.
And therefore, I'll give you the floor. I'll just change to your slides and give you the ball so you can go on.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Rita, for the nice introduction. And it's a real pleasure to be here with so many of you. Thank you so much for joining us from all corners of Europe and beyond. I'm very excited today to present to you the key results from the monitoring survey, which we launched at the end of last year, and which I'm not sure you can see, but is actually the results of that analysis are in this report, which you can see in the next slide here. This report was launched at the eTwinning conference, which took place just a few weeks ago here in Brussels on the 23rd of October, and we were there celebrating eTwinning's 10th anniversary. And for that purpose, we published the results of the survey, which is all about how eTwinning has impacted teachers' skills and practices through their work. So perhaps the first question to you all would be, was anyone there at the conference with us? Perhaps you participated in person or online? And maybe Ruta could ask the first poll question there to get an idea of how many people. So here we go, this is the first question, just to get an idea how many of you were there. But we will have around 8 questions during this presentation, so probably it's a good point to tell you that I don't want to speak non-stop lecture style. I want to, of course, involve you. So while I present some of the results, I will also be asking you questions through the poll with the help of Ruta. So it'd be good if you could get used to answering these. We just ask you very simple yes/no questions, and if you would like to elaborate a bit further, please put your hand up and we will pass you the ball so that you can speak.
Yeah. So we have more than 50% of the answers. Would you like me to close the poll?
Yes, yes, okay. You do. Yeah.
So you should be able to see the.
Okay. So yeah. So a lot of you, the majority of you, were not actually there and did not actually follow the conference. Okay. So for you to know that there will be another eTwinning conference next year around the same time in October. So if you can't be there in person, we know that not everyone is able to and not invited by their national agencies. So you can, of course, follow online, so please do next time. But just to say, this report was first published there, but you are the first people to get the results online through this presentation because it was only given out to a small number of people at the conference. So this is the first public presentation of the results. So we're very happy to share that first presentation with you. And I think there's another question, actually, question poll 2, which is actually about whether or not you took part in this survey. Because we were interested in knowing if you want to know about the results because you yourself contributed to the survey or if you're just generally interested. So how many of you out there actually took the survey in 2014? We hope some of you did, so you can see the good results you helped us come up with together in this report. Okay, perfect. Okay, so actually the majority of you did not take part in this. Of course, this is not a problem, but for you to know that we will launch the survey again in October 2016. So you will be very welcome to take part in the survey next year. But of course, today we're going to focus on the results of the survey that took place in 2014. So thank you to those that did. We have 24 teachers among you that took the time to take the survey. So we hope that you find the results interesting. Okay, so let's now move on to the actual results. Just to give you some background knowledge about the survey first, especially because most of you did not take it, what was the aim of the survey? The aim of the survey was indeed to understand better how eTwinning is impacting on teachers' practice, skills, and also their professional development. So we launched the survey to all eTwinners, so regardless of how active they are on the programme, and we did so in the 25 languages. So you can see these on the screen here. The format was 42 questions, so it was quite a long survey. It took at least 15 minutes to complete, but all these questions were closed because, as you can imagine, it would have been impossible for us to analyse open questions in 25 languages. So we made the questions quite detailed, but a closed one, so that we could analyse it easily. We received 8,137 responses in total over the period. It was online for around 2 months. And from these, we had to clean the data, and the final result was 6,000 responses, which we retained for the analysis. And I'm going to talk to you today about those 6,000 answers we received. So as you can imagine, it's quite a large amount, so we're quite pleased with that response rate, because it means we can say something significant on the basis of some solid data. So let's have a quick look at the profile of the respondents. So as I said, there were 6,000 in total, and they came from a large number of countries. The biggest response rates came from Poland with 826 responses, then Italy with 785, and then Greece with 688. And then you can probably spot your own country further down the bar graph. Okay, so apparently I need to maybe sit back a bit. Is it clearer if I'm not too close? Is that better in terms of sound?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So, in terms of the roles of the respondents, as you can see, the majority are, of course, teachers, like yourselves, but also we had some head teachers, ICT coordinators, as well as special needs and other roles within the school taking part in the survey. And the vast majority, over 85%, were actually in general education. In terms of the age of the respondents, and years of experience, you can see this is a very experienced group of teachers, with the majority having between 11 and 20 years of teaching experience, and within the age range of 36 and 55. And for some reason this is a blank graph here. I apologise for that. So this is about the subjects taught by the people that responded, but I can tell you the results myself. Foreign languages was actually the subject most taught by the respondents of the survey, and this reflects the eTwinning platform as a whole, because as you know, there are a large number of teachers working in this area registered on the platform. The next most popular subject was the primary school subjects, so teachers teaching an array of subjects at primary level, followed by language and ICT. So apologies you can't see that, but those are the results. In the next graph here, we see what status these respondents have within eTwinning. So again, it's the most active eTwinners really that responded mostly to the questionnaire. As you see there, the red indicates the largest groups, and these involve those that have successfully completed projects already and are also currently involved in projects. But also there is, interestingly, a group of new eTwinners who were actually involved in their first project but also took part in the survey. So in that way we can say that actually the results of this are not only from advanced teachers but also people new to eTwinning. So it reflects quite a balanced view. But what about the schools these teachers worked in? So we gave 4 statements, and we asked everyone to say whether they agreed strongly or to a lesser degree regarding their school's profile. So if their school was active in eTwinning and other international projects, as you can see there, the majority strongly agree with this or agreed, or whether their school was involved in initiatives aimed at cultivating innovative practices in school, and again the majority agreed. Then we asked about collaboration with other teachers and about self-evaluation. So you can see the results are quite positive. So most respondents answering the survey come from quite innovative schools, but a bit more about that later on. So what about the impact of eTwinning so far on teacher skills and practices, according to these 6,000 respondents? Well, here it's rather small, but I can fill in the gaps for you. I just highlighted the 3 top skills that teachers actually rated eTwinning to have impacted on. And in first position, this was actually, unsurprisingly, project-based teaching skills. Of course, as you know, when you're working in Twinning, you're very commonly working with other teachers on projects and with other pupils. So teachers felt this was really a top skill that was improved by the project. They also felt that actually teaching cross-curricular skills was a really top skill that was developed, and in a similarly high position, foreign language skills, because of course when they were working together with other teachers, they were also practicing their foreign language skills and their pupils' foreign language skills. So those are the top 3 skills. And the next poll, which I'd like Rita to kindly put up for you, is actually asking you whether you agree that in your experience of eTwinning, these are the 3 top skills that you have also felt have been developed by your work in eTwinning. So let me repeat those again. That is your ability to teach cross-curricular skills. So by this we mean creativity, it could be working in groups, these cross-curricular skills. Also your ability to use foreign languages for teaching, and finally your project-based teaching skills. So would you agree these are the top 3 skills eTwinning has helped you with? Please feel free to say no, and if you say no, perhaps you could raise a hand and tell us what skills you feel the program has helped you with more. So in the chat I saw that a lot of you do agree, so that is interesting, and some people also mentioned technology skills being another one actually that they did find eTwinning helps to improve. And this is surprising actually, because as you will see in the next slide, many teachers felt, or at least a significant minority felt, that technology skills were not impacted at all by eTwinning. So that's very interesting to read. But now let's have a look at the results. Okay, so here we have the results, and the majority of you indeed do agree that these are the top 3 skills you would also say eTwinning has helped you improve, with this very small minority saying that this would be different. Okay, good, interesting. So let's now move on to the next interesting graph, which shows actually areas in which a group of teachers felt actually eTwinning had no impact at all. And as I just mentioned, one of these areas, in fact, is technology skills for teaching, which we found quite surprising, because as you know, a lot of eTwinning teachers work online through their projects cross-nationally, and a lot of the professional development activities we offer is also in connection with digital tools you can use for teaching and learning. So we wondered at this result, and this is the reason for the next poll question, is to ask you, do you agree that eTwinning has had none or little impact in terms of your technology-enhanced teaching skills? This would be really interesting for us to check with you, this survey result. So if you could kindly take a minute to answer the next question, and if anyone could kindly raise their hand after this question to explain maybe why they think eTwinning doesn't have any impact in this area, or alternatively why it does. That would be very interesting for us to hear from you.
Caroline, while we are waiting, I have an interesting question in the chat. Saying, do you happen to have a table showing eTwinning's positive impact on student skills?
Yes, that is coming. Yes, so, yes, don't worry. There is, not in terms of their skills, in fact, in terms of their practices. So we asked teachers how they felt their student practices had changed as a result of eTwinning, and also the impact it's had on students. So yes, to some extent that is answered in a few slides' time. So here we have the results, and actually a lot of you do not agree, so that's very interesting. The majority say they do not agree that technology skills for teaching are not impacted by eTwinning, so that is very interesting, with a very few of you saying yes, so that is the case. Perhaps someone could tell us why they think this. Is anybody willing to raise their hand and briefly say why, or perhaps they find also this result quite surprising? Okay, so we hear here from Josefa Martin Gaspar, who says the impact on the use of technology is one of the most important. eTwinning projects make use of technology in almost everything. So indeed, I think like us, you also find this quite a surprising result. And many other teachers are agreeing that they use technology a lot in their eTwinning projects and beyond in their own teaching. So of course, without technology, this collaboration wouldn't exist in the first place, as Stavrula Lada says. So thank you for the comments in the chat. Perhaps then we could agree together that, in fact, the reason why teachers felt that eTwinning wasn't having an impact directly on their technology skills for teaching is because it's so much part of what they are doing in eTwinning. They don't think of it as an extra skill. It's really part of their everyday eTwinning work. So maybe that is the reason why that question was answered in this way. Okay, thank you for your reflections on that. The next slide, there was no graph here, I'm afraid. It was just too big to fit onto the slide. So I just highlighted the 4 top results in terms of the increase in teaching practices as a result of eTwinning. And this is according to the 6,000 respondents. So we saw in first position that 71% of teachers say that they teach the understanding of themes cutting across disciplines more now than before as a direct result of eTwinning. So that's very interesting that there is more interdisciplinary work going on thanks to eTwinning. So that's very encouraging to see. 68% of teachers say that their teaching is very much competence-based and not so much only on knowledge acquisition and knowledge retention. And they also attribute this directly to their work in eTwinning, which, as you know, focuses a lot on skill development. So that's also very positive. And then we also see, rated almost as highly, the fact that teachers facilitate discussions with the whole class where the focus really is on students talking and not the teachers dominating. So that's also very important. And I think this one was the most surprising, is that a very positive majority also said that thanks to eTwinning, they teach their students more the process of learning to learn. And we know from research that learning to learn is a very difficult thing to, it's very abstract in that sense, and it's difficult to concretize as a teacher to really help learners with this process. So it's very encouraging to hear that eTwinning is helping with that fundamental skill, which is fundamental to all teaching and learning. What about the impact on teachers' practice? So we asked here about 2 different things, whether it's had an impact on teaching methods, and whether it's had an impact on teachers' use of new tools or resources. And the results are very positive, as you see, with 78% of teachers saying yes, they now use a new method, and even more teachers, 87% saying they use new tools or resources. Now, our assumption was why are there more teachers using tools and resources rather than new methods? And we think perhaps, and this would be interesting to hear from you, this is because it is easier sometimes and quicker to be able to use a new tool or resource you have learned or found in eTwinning in your daily teaching, because it's something that you have and it's ready to use. Whereas changing your way of working, changing your teaching method is something that takes time, and is also something that can be quite cultural. So we imagine for this, perhaps the percentage of teachers changing their methods is a slower process, and perhaps for this reason, fewer teachers are doing it. But we hear that Herm is saying he doesn't agree with these results, so that's interesting in the chat. Herm, would you like to maybe explain why? In case you're interested in sharing that? Okay, so he's saying that he does actually think methods were changed. Okay, yes, so you agree with the 78% of teachers there. So that's good. Indeed, they are changed. It just seems to be to a lesser extent than teachers who use tools and resources immediately after their work in eTwinning. So that's interesting. Now, we also asked about teachers' self-reflection. And of course, we wanted to make sure that teachers were not being overly positive in their replies, and we wanted them to be as objective as possible. So to do this, we firstly asked them, how frequently do you reflect on your own practice in general? Okay, so that's the pie chart you see on the left-hand side of the slide. How much you do this in any case, in general, and then we asked them in the second question, how much do you reflect on your own practice as a direct result of eTwinning? So to see if there was, in fact, a difference. So as you can see on the left-hand side, the majority of teachers said they do this a lot or quite a bit, about 50% both categories. And when we asked them to what extent is this directly as a result of eTwinning, 83% said, indeed, it is because of my work in eTwinning. So that's a very, very encouraging result for us to see. So now we're going to move on to impact at student level. I know Ruta mentioned that someone was asking about this in the chat. So here we have some results for you on this particular aspect. We asked about learning practices. So in teachers' opinions, what learning practices of their students had changed as a result of their involvement in eTwinning. And I think it's interesting to see that in the first positions, top positions, teachers felt that students now work on projects that require at least 1 week to complete. So a lot more students are now working on rather long-term projects as a result of eTwinning, which of course is quite natural because that's what eTwinning is all about. But they also said that now students are working in small groups to work on a joint solution to a problem or task, for example. And that's very interesting because this is not just in their eTwinning work, but also in their normal school work. eTwinning has helped more group work to happen across classes as well as within classes. So that was, we thought, a very interesting result as well. If we now look at the impact it's actually had on students, the overwhelming majority said that the biggest impact eTwinning can have had on students is in fact for their motivation. So they find the program very motivating because of its cross-national basis, of the opportunity to learn from students and teachers across countries. But also there were very positive results for the other factors as well, including improving personal relations among students, as well as fostering collaborative work among students. So this again reminds us of the impact on group level we just saw in the previous slide. An area I think which is important to note here where there was least impact at student level is clearly the learning of students with special educational needs. So you see there that we have 1/3 of teachers saying that eTwinning really had no impact at all with the special educational needs students they work with. So this might be an area that we could focus on in the future. I don't know if people have anything to say about that, or whether you perhaps also teach students with special educational needs. But if you do, maybe there is some room there for projects specifically targeting this group of teachers, of students rather. Now let's move on to the school level, which I think is a very interesting one to look at, because so far we've looked at teacher skills, we've looked a little bit at student skills, but the report actually focuses mostly on the impact at school level, because next year we really want to focus on how eTwinning can make a difference at this level. So in order to investigate this a bit further, we actually designed a school profile, and to do this we termed some schools as innovative and other schools as non-innovative. Now, of course, this is a very basic categorization, and it's a controversial one because you can define an innovative school and a non-innovative school in many different ways. But for the purposes of this survey, we made the following definition. We said that all teachers that replied to the survey and said that they strongly agreed or agreed with the following 4 statements would be classed as innovative schools. So a teacher needs to say that firstly, their school was engaged in self-evaluation. Secondly, that their school promoted collaboration among teachers. Thirdly, that their school was involved in initiatives aimed at cultivating innovative practices. And fourthly, that their school actively participated in eTwinning as well as other international projects. Okay, so all respondents that said they agreed that their school did these 4 things were classed as teaching in schools that were innovative. And then on the other extreme, we said that teachers who said no or disagreed with all of those 4 activities, they were teaching in schools that could be understood as less innovative. Okay, that is the categorization we made. So perhaps I should ask if that's clear for everyone before I show you the next results, because it's very much based on this categorization. I will show you now what we found out. So we asked teachers whether they actually shared some of their eTwinning experiences. This could be anything. It could be the results of their eTwinning project. It could be the results of their participation in an eTwinning online seminar. Any of these activities, whether they shared these results within their school or beyond their school. Okay, it's very interesting to see the difference in responses of teachers coming from innovative schools, whereas you see 74%, so they do this very frequently. They always share the results of their eTwinning projects or eTwinning professional development activities with other non-eTwinners. And when you contrast this, when you ask the non-innovative, teachers working in schools that they consider to be non-innovative, 63% said actually no, we don't share the results. Okay, so I think that's very, very interesting. And we hope in the future to understand through interviews and other more qualitative research why that is. Okay, well that's the first striking result. And it would be interesting now to ask you our poll 5, Rita, if you wouldn't mind, which is, have you yourselves shared any eTwinning experience with someone not involved in eTwinning in your school or beyond? And then the next question, I'm giving you a sneak preview, is actually asking, is that because you work in an innovative school or not? Do you think this is the decisive factor? Or perhaps you think the school profile isn't important in determining whether or not you share your eTwinning experiences. And so now we just want to know, do you share them, yes or no? And let me remind you, an eTwinning experience can be the results of your eTwinning projects. It can be a new tool you found out about from another teacher or from another pupil while working on an eTwinning project. It can be any tool, resource, or method, or insight you gained from any professional development, whether it was an eTwinning online seminar, or a course, or a PDW, a professional development workshop, or a workshop at the eTwinning conference. It doesn't matter. All of these we class as eTwinning experiences. Okay. So, a large majority again here saying you do share your results. So that's very, very encouraging, with a small number of you saying no. Perhaps it would be interesting, after the next question, to understand why those people do not. Have we got any volunteers that would kindly like to raise their hand or write in the chat why they don't share their experiences? Of course, we don't want to judge anyone. It's not about that. It's just interesting for us to understand what the barrier might be. Is it just a lack of time? Is it because your school head teacher doesn't really encourage this? Anyone willing to say why they don't share their eTwinning experiences very much? Okay, so we have Manuel Monlina saying that in her new school, people are not so interested. Okay. So of course, if you're also working in a new school environment, you might be a bit more wary of trying out new things and talking to people who are not so interested. Others are saying, Katerina Demu saying a lack of time, also because it's so demanding. Okay, yes, of course it does take time to do this, and we know you have very, very busy schedules. But that is why actually we're trying to develop ways to help you share these experiences in the future. So it's interesting for us to hear from you about that. So thank you for that. Others are saying that colleagues are not interested. Okay, well that's something we have to work on. We have to try and evangelize your colleagues because we want them to care as much as you do. Sharing is caring, as Barbara says. Yes, indeed. Okay, so let's have a look now at the next poll question, if we may, which is, thank you very much, Rita, which is, if you do share, so the majority said you do, so if your answer was yes, is this mainly because sharing experiences is part of your school culture already? Okay, so could you tell us if this is why you share? Because in your school, there is a sharing culture already. So just a simple yes or no, please. And what we are trying to understand here is perhaps there are other reasons why you do share, or is it really because, as the results of this survey show, there is a big school influence, and that is very much the key result coming out of the report, that the type of school you work in, so whether it's innovative, whether it's encouraging, is actually very fundamental to the way you work in eTwinning as well. So this is a very interesting one. So there seems to be a very, very even split this time. So almost exactly the same number of people, 42 people replying yes, they do share eTwinning experiences because they are part of a school that has a sharing culture. And same number of people, in fact just one more, 43, saying no, this is not the reason why they share eTwinning experiences. It's not because of the school they work in. Could one of you, it'd be great if one of you from that answered no could explain why. Again, you're very welcome to write in the chat, as most of you seem to be doing, or also to raise your hand, and Rita will allow you to speak.
From all the comments, I see that the majority that said no probably say that it's a communication problem. So some feel jealousy, some other feel, I don't know, that it's not worth it. Maybe I'm wrong, but you can correct me in the chat. Because I've been reading all the comments, so that's what I get from your comments. Some are lucky, they have good colleagues and people interested, but some other
are not, yeah. And some people don't feel it's worth it, and I think that's something that for us to address then, because of course we want you to feel the experiences are worthwhile and worth sharing. But that's interesting to see there was quite an even split in the way you reply to that. Okay, so if no one wants to speak or to add anything, then perhaps we can go to the next slide. So here, what you see on the screen is the answers from teachers coming from non-innovative schools. So these are the teachers that said that they're working in conditions they consider to be non-innovative. So not a sharing culture, not a culture where the school positively encourages collaboration among teachers or any kind of involvement in innovative practices, okay? But interestingly, even those teachers, as you can see, there is some of them that still think eTwinning has a large or moderate impact at school level. And that's the green and the yellow bars. Okay, this is the positive impact eTwinning has had on their school. But of course, as you see, there is actually a very big majority of them in the blue bars saying there's been no or small impact. Again, we see the importance of being part of a positive school culture for eTwinning to be able to have an impact. If we contrast this with the next slide, which is the responses from teachers coming from innovative schools, we see a very different picture. You see now that the green and the yellow bars are much, much bigger, okay, with 80 to 90% of teachers saying that actually eTwinning has had a very positive impact, a large or moderate impact at school level. So what do we mean by this? We mean that it's helped them build a sense of European citizenship within the school. We mean that it's helped them raise school staff's awareness of the importance of using internet safely and responsibly, for example. It's also helped attract parent interest in European projects, a colleague's interest, for school staff to be more involved in innovation projects, improving the relations between teachers and students, and finally fostering cooperation among teachers. So as you see, this again really proves that the school environment seems to play a significant role in determining how much impact eTwinning has at that level. What I would like to highlight from the results here is, can you see that there is one blue bar that is bigger than all the rest? Are you all awake? I know it's 6:45 in the evening. Yes, Helena says 90%, and it is indeed 19% of teachers saying there's only been a very small impact. And if you add that to the 5% next to it, you get 24% of teachers, 24, that's right, 24% of teachers saying that attracting parents' interest in European projects actually hasn't happened very much. So again, this could be an area for us to focus on, because we see that here there's been a small to no impact according to teachers, even teachers working in innovative schools where we have this positive environment. They still seem to think that in this area, eTwinning hasn't yet had a very big impact. Those were indeed the main results in terms of the impact at the level of the teachers, at the level of students, and indeed the level of school, according to those 6,000 teachers that voluntarily took part in the survey. So what do we learn from this? So I've just tried to put together some very basic conclusions from the report. Again, you can find more detailed analysis of these conclusions in the full report, which you will have access to online. But let's just go through some of these together. So firstly, we think that as a result of what we've learned, we need to support less advanced eTwinners, particularly those working in less innovative schools. And how could we do this? Well, we thought that a good way of doing this would be to harness the experience of more advanced eTwinners that could indeed help less advanced eTwinners find their way and benefit from the programme as much as possible. we also need to find a way of embedding eTwinning more effectively at the level of the whole school, because as we saw, that is very, very important. And this, I think, the next point is probably the most important point arising from the report, is the need to target the involvement of school heads and senior management and to help them develop school policies which will facilitate long-term involvement in eTwinning. Okay, we see there is a real need there to get the school heads from your schools on board. And so for this reason, I have another poll question for you. If Rita would kindly put up number 7.
Yes.
Indeed, here it is. And the question is your school head supportive of eTwinning? So this might mean that they allow you the space to present the results of the projects you've been working on, or perhaps they give you time to take part in the professional development opportunities offered by eTwinning. Whatever it is, or they allow you to take time off school to come to workshops or the conference, whatever way, it doesn't matter, but would you generally say your school head is supportive of your involvement in eTwinning? So Rita, what do you think? What do you guess? Do you think people will say yes or no?
Well, I know the answer.
The results are now there.
Yes.
So you're saying you know. Okay, that would be cheating. Okay. So as we see actually here, the majority of you taking part in today's seminar say indeed your head is supportive, which is great. 74 out of the 148 teachers online today, with 24 of you saying no, that you do not have a supportive head, which is important because we're very keen that you stay with us, even if you don't have a supportive head. So thank you for your participation in eTwinning. We recognise it's not as easy for people working in schools with less supportive senior management and less supportive colleagues, but we are developing ways to help you more and more. So do stay with us. Perhaps we could have the follow-up question now to that concerning school heads. So as you see now on your screen, the next follow-up question is, do you think providing ways to get your head teachers more involved will help them to be more supportive of eTwinning? Okay, do you think targeting your head teachers, if we target them by inviting them to a meeting, we would like to also perhaps invite them to the prize events we do for the winning projects. We are thinking of ways to involve head teachers more and more, so we're interested in your opinion. Perhaps some of you will think no, because your head teachers are very busy and they wouldn't appreciate being approached in this way. Others of you might think it's a good idea. So please let us know your thoughts.
It's interesting to see some comments. They say that they don't give support, but they don't oppose. That's a neutral position as well.
Yeah, an interesting comment from Lisa Belogi saying that, of course, the head is supportive, but they would also like them not to work on too many innovations, projects and themes at the same time, because at one point they feel a bit lost, and that's of course also true. So you need to also, head needs to make a decision on which projects to focus on. Okay, so now we have the results. And the majority of you think yes, this actually would be a very good idea to target head teachers more directly and to get them involved. And not just involved, but for them to be a bit more aware of what eTwinning is all about and what and how it can benefit their school and their teachers. So that's great. That's very encouraging for us. It gives us more of a mandate to be able to look into ways of doing this. So thank you for sharing that with us. The next key result from the report is indeed we need to better understand the current barriers stopping teachers and schools from getting further involved in eTwinning. So this, I said, was more of an open question to you. We've had some ideas already from you about the barriers you face in terms of time and less interested colleagues, for example. But we need to better understand these barriers in order to be able to overcome them together. So that is what is on the road ahead for the CSS and the NSS. So that's the Central Support Service and the National Support Services of eTwinning to work on in the future upcoming year. So we will come to you again about that. And lastly, we feel the need to promote and provide guidance to schools on getting cumulative impact from the involvement in successive eTwinning projects. So what do we mean by this? Well, as you know, there is a lot of eTwinners that do one project, and it's what we would call a one-hit wonder. So they have a great project and then that's it. For many reasons, they don't get involved again. but we would really like to help teachers and schools understand that by being involved in more than one project, you can actually get a cumulative impact effect, which is very, very positive. So basically, those are the key results. I hope you found them interesting, and I hope they've given you some food for thought. Of course, the report itself is available online. It's at the link you see just here. At the moment, it's only available in English, but the good news is that before the end of this year, the report will be published in French, Spanish, German, Italian, and Polish. Okay, and you will find it in the publication section of the eTwinning portal at the URL on the screen. Okay. Now, very importantly, though, is, of course, I would like to ask your participation next year, because the idea is that this survey now becomes a longitudinal study. So what do we mean by this? We mean that we will be asking the same survey, perhaps with some additional questions, depending on the priority for that year, but we will be asking the same survey and launching it online every 2 years. So today's report was all about the 2014 survey, and the next survey will be launched in October 2016. And it would be great if we could rely on all you teachers who kindly participated in today's seminar to take part in that survey to help us better understand not only what we're doing right, but also what we're doing wrong and how we can improve for the future. I should also mention that the report also looks at professional development opportunities, and unfortunately there wasn't time to include the results from that today, but perhaps we will do another online seminar if there is interest about that aspect in the near future.
I think that would be great,
okay.
Caroline.
Yeah, good. Well, I'd be very happy to do that. So I don't know if there are any specific questions from people about anything
yes, they are asking how can they help you with the survey. So maybe you can explain a little bit better that the survey will be available only in October, right?
Yes, exactly. So what would be great is if you could participate to it, because we got a large amount of responses last year, but in order to be able to say something significant, the more responses, the better. And as you also saw, we originally got more than 8,000 responses, but we had to get rid of 2,000 because they were not valid. Why? Because teachers replied twice by accident, or they only started the survey but they didn't finish it right until the end. So they unfortunately were considered as invalid answers. So we really are trying, the best way to help us is by voluntarily taking part in the survey. It takes 15, maximum 20 minutes to do, but it really helps us to better understand where we want to go and how we can help you better. So that would be great if you're willing to take part in that. I think it probably is a good time to mention, Rita, if you agree, that this is just one part of the monitoring activity of eTwinning. This is the quantitative part of the approach, where we ask you a survey every 2 years. But we also do a qualitative monitoring, which I know some of you are aware of. And this was a pilot project last year, but it's going to become, let's say, a full project in 2016. So if anyone is interested in the qualitative monitoring of eTwinning, whereby you follow a rubric which helps you develop your own teaching competences while working on an eTwinning project, then I would be very, very happy for you to take part in that. I run that project, and I've already started collecting names of people interested. So I can give you my email address in the chat, and you can contact me if you would like to be a part of that. And I can give you more information then. Okay, great. Someone's saying they're interested, which is really great. And very nice of Carla to say it was interesting and interactive. Very pleased to hear that. Others want to know how they can be part of the study. So as I mentioned, just to make it clear again, you can be part of this by answering the survey next year, which will be launched in October 2016. It will be available in all your languages, so you can take the survey in your mother tongue. Another way you can help us be part of the bigger study is by being part of the qualitative project about monitoring eTwinning practice. If you're interested in that second part, please email me. Ruta will send you my email address. It's also in the chat. Apologies for not putting it on the slide. But yes, great. A few people, Laura Volpati says she will join, and Hedi Azrelli, so that's great. I'm really glad that you find this interesting and useful. Your help to us is really of great value.
Okay, Caroline, I think there's a great interest to have another online seminar to develop a little bit further these topics.
Great.
So I think you'll have another session very soon.
Very good. Look forward to it.
So if you don't have any more questions, I would like just to thank you for your attendance, and we'd like to inform you that the next online seminar will be on the 19th of November, and it will be about the Rainbow Village project. So it's a best practice, it's just sharing best practices, and Isabel will tell us more about the Rainbow Village project. Thank you so much for being here, and I think I can say goodbye. Thank you, Caroline, for your work.
Thank you so much to you, Rita, for hosting this. It was a great privilege to be here again. I look forward to the next seminar together.